So I was watching one of Matty Allen's videos regarding sudden wealth syndrome, and I think he does an excellent job of pointing out what it is and helping people to understand how to recognize that you are developing some of the symptoms of it, recognizing that others may interact with you differently because of sudden wealth, as well as you may interact with others, could be disrespectfully, could be belittling others or thinking that you're better than them. I definitely recommend you watch his video because it goes more in depth as to some of these reasons why we may experience that, as well as how to cope with and try to deal with any of those symptoms after you have them. I'm going to play a short clip. What I would like to do is talk a little bit more in detail as to how we can prevent sudden wealth syndrome from occurring from the get. And this isn't specifically to crypto. However, as he points out, more often than not, it's very prevalent in crypto, as well as those who win the lottery or any type of, again, sudden wealth. It's more common in crypto because there are a lot more people that experience that drastic increase in their portfolios in a very short period of time. And that can create those symptoms. And if we're not prepared for how to deal with them, which he kind of goes into, I'm not going to dive into myself, it can cause us to, again, not be prepared and do things that we normally wouldn't do. So I'm going to flip to a quick clip and then we'll go back and connect some of the dots with some of the other videos that I've posted in the past, as well as talking about preventing sudden wealth syndrome.
And sudden wealth syndrome is a psychological phenomenon that happens to people who win the lottery, who get large inheritances, or who get rich in crypto. There are side effects to becoming suddenly wealthy, especially at the speed and magnitude that crypto can deliver. It's unlike anything that has ever existed before it. It's unlike any financial tool in the legacy system. We live in a digital world now. We have these digital investments that can go up 30% in a day. In a decade, Bitcoin can go up 1,000,000x, turning every $1 into $1 million, but only for the people who can hold on to it. A mistake that people make in a bull market is they start treating themselves and other people way differently, and it can really backfire on you. And so there's a range of behaviors that come out in sudden wealth syndrome. Some people adapt and adjust to sudden wealth just fine, but some people, it's really a spectrum. So one of the things that you're looking out for is you have to keep yourself having structure. If you get to the point where you don't have to work the same amount of hours, or you get to buy your freedom and, do something you want to do, buy a house, pay for people's medical expenses, whatever part of your plan is, you're going to have to figure out what to do with your time once you're retired or once you're suddenly wealthy. The idea, though, is you have to have something to do with your time. You have to add structure to your life. And so if you don't start practicing that before you retire, before you have all this time in front of you, then it's going to be really unfamiliar. So, it can lead to depression. It can lead to boredom. It can lead to anxiety, or sometimes people are just relaxed and happy and free. If you become suddenly wealthy, you might all of a sudden think that your time is more valuable than other people's. And that's not necessarily true. You might become irritable and annoyed when you have to deal with life's small problems and the costs of waiting in line, etc. So that's going to be a major factor. You just have to be aware of how you're treating others, and you have to treat others with kindness and love. Another factor that can come into play is people treat you differently. People are can become abusive towards you, and they can not only treat you differently, but they can take advantage of you financially.
Okay, so again, that's just a little, a small clip of his video. I would suggest for any of you who may be interested in sudden wealth syndrome, for you to watch his full video, and you can access it on his YouTube. I'm sure whoever's watching this video already knows who he is and can access it, but I will include a link to the video below so that anyone who is new to crypto or new to our ecosystem can access and start to follow him. So what I want to dive into is sudden wealth syndrome is suddenly receiving an abundance of wealth. I've spoken about abundance quite often, right? We talk about manifesting abundance and receiving abundance by focusing our thoughts to create what it is that we desire. Now, the process of manifesting or creating what it is that we desire is the fact that we feel and think that we are wealthy or we are healthy or whatever it is that you're looking to attract. And if you do that in record speed or instantaneously, it's known as a phenomenon in the law of attraction world as instant manifestation. And instant manifestation is not something that most people understand how to do. It's not something that many people can control. Although if you understand and learn how to do it, you can control it. And it's quite interesting and fun to do. However, the closest thing that most people will experience to instant manifestation will most likely be by accident through cryptocurrency or winning the lottery or something else, an inheritance or some other pretty much sudden wealth, as they describe it, right? It's instantly manifested, it's unexpected, and it happens very, very quickly. So everything that I talk about when it comes to the law of attraction world is about us trying to create this manifestation of what it is that we desire. And in this case, what I am working with all of you guys doing is focusing as a collective group on the PulseChain ecosystem. And we're not knowing exactly what we're going to create because it is a blank canvas, right? We don't know what the future holds. And for us to put specific subjects and criteria on what it should look like 100% is kind of hindering the growth of its possibilities. Instead, we start to focus on, man, wouldn't it be nice if this were the case, if PulseChain did go to this level, right, where we are all doing fantastic and we're able to stay steady, hold our positions similar to a Bitcoin or an Ethereum, where the cycles progress, and even if we decided to hold our bags or majority of our bags, that we would still be successful for the future cycles to come. So that would be a nice goal to hold within our mind. Now, the instant manifestation aspect is when you think about something and you receive that thing in record speed, faster than you actually thought you would receive it. Instant manifestation is not your external world. It really is derived from your internal thoughts. So when you start to think about something to the point where you close your eye and are in a meditative state about a specific subject, like a vacation or a vehicle or running into someone that you may want to be in a relationship with, when it's in your mind and it feels realistic to the point where you can't tell the difference between your external world and your internal world, that feeling, that thought, that feeling within your mind is the instant manifestation, because you've already felt the feelings of it being complete. And when you feel the feelings of something being complete, you've lived that vibrationally to the point where it is done. And when it is done, that's when the instant manifestation comes in record speed. Now, that could be in the form of cryptocurrency, or it could be a lottery win, an inheritance, or many other things. right? But you have to feel the feelings of it being complete, and you have to believe that it's possible for it to happen. So those two things, those two criteria are necessary in order to create instant manifestation on purpose. We don't need those things to happen when we create instant manifestation by accident. So cryptocurrency, for the most part, most people will receive accidentally. And because we're receiving it accidentally, we haven't done the vibrational work of placing our mind in that place as if it is complete. So because we haven't done that, we're not vibrationally ready for that instant wealth or that sudden wealth, hence causing sudden wealth syndrome. So what I'm talking about here is preventing sudden wealth syndrome by being prepared, creating your future more so than living by default. And again, it is nice to receive things by default because it's easier. It's a more of a lazy thinker or a lazy focuser can receive something like that, and it's more, you feel like it's luck. You feel like you're grateful that it happened, and you feel like it's one in a million. You may even feel like you can't do it again. Like you need to sell, you need to do this because it's never going to happen to you again. Like if you lose that lottery ticket, it'll never happen ever again because the odds are super low. And if you do that, then you're definitely living by default, and you're definitely attracting by default. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's okay, because if you want to just focus on being happy in your life, and this does occur, which it is likely to happen for a lot of us, especially in this ecosystem, when that happens, you're likely going to be not prepared for it. Now, if you're not prepared, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I definitely suggest you watch Maddie's video because it'll help you to focus on addressing the aspects and recognizing the aspects of that syndrome. And even if you're doing the things that I'm talking about, because what I'm talking about takes time for you to practice and to understand, but it's more important than just handling the aftermath, right? What I'm talking about is preventing it from happening in the first place by being in the mindset and being prepared for it way in advance. And so for me, let's say, as an example, when I did physically work in a regular job and got a paycheck every week, I was vibrationally and mentally in a place where I was not working for someone. I had spent time in my mind focusing on being retired or being relaxed, and spent many hours in my mind, days and weeks, in that vibration. So when it did occur where my business became successful and investments that I've done had become successful, I was able to shift into that naturally. It was what I would call the next logical step. And when something is the next logical step, that's usually when the manifestation occurs. So when you're trying to create something, it should feel like the next logical step. Being in PulseChain, I was vibrationally attracted to be in PulseChain. And my entry point, very grateful, is pretty close to the bottom. I'm not saying that to brag, but what I'm saying is that I wasn't able to deploy a certain amount of funds, even though a portion of mine is at the top. But I was able to attract the ability to be patient unintentionally, right? Because I was vibrationally aligned to not be able to do certain things, which tied my hands behind my back until certain FUD entered, and then an influx of funds that were released from another project were able to then roll over to this. On top of a sequence of events of losing money in another asset, which caused me to say, let me make some changes, and the vibrational energy caused me to enter PulseChain and the rest of the ecosystem. Again, it doesn't matter where I enter, where you enter. I mean, it does, but it doesn't, right? What we really want is the vibrational alignment of entry and exit, or holding, or whatever it is that our intention and goal is, right? Because I would prefer to not have to sell, and I would prefer to hold my position. I can't say what I will do because I'm basing my decisions on my vibrational alignment and not on a dollar number or a price. So I may not feel the need to, and I try to focus on not needing to, not wanting to, and that the ecosystem evolves in an irregular way. Now, someone like Asami would say that that's irresponsible and it's not, it's more of a unlikely situation, and logically he would be right. Right? Logically, it would be unreasonable for me to be a dreamer as far as I am, but it is also illogical to have an entry point that's close to the bottom, right? You don't time the bottom that way. Most of us don't, even if we're expert traders. So I do believe that there is going to be a scenario that's going to play out similar to what I'm asking the universe for, and what I'm asking for all of us to collaboratively think of. With that being said, what I want you guys to kind of think about is the fact that you should, I don't want to say you should, because I don't want to tell anybody to do what they don't want to do. What I suggest to do, and what I do on a regular basis, is to focus on constantly being abundant, right? Because we are in the realm of abundance. We're talking about wealth. We're talking about cryptocurrency. So wealth is a thing. Abundance is a thing. So I'm not going to lie and pretend that it isn't. So what I'm saying is, some of the things you should be doing is practicing in your mind what you would be doing with your wealth, right? Being able to practice that. And it's okay if you want to spend it on a car, if you want to spend it on a house, or you want to do this. You can take those funds, whatever it is that you think that your end result should be, and you can spend that dollar amount multiple times on multiple things, because this is a vibrational thought. It is only within your head, and you can't stop yourself from spending the same amount of money. So say your end goal, as most people say, is $1 million. We'll use that as an example. So what can you buy with $1 million, right? You could buy maybe a nice Lamborghini for $500,000, $600,000, maybe $700,000, right? You could buy a nice boat. You could buy a nice house, depending on where you live in the country or world. But let's say you bought that. So you could buy that house for $1 million, and then you could vibrationally go to the boat store and buy a boat. You could vibrationally buy a car or multiple cars, right? It doesn't mean because you spent it in your mind that you can't spend it again. And that's the whole fun of the law of attraction and focusing intentionally. So if you're focusing intentionally on those things multiple times, you are going to feel the abundance. You're going to start to feel it. And I think I know the feeling is more important than the thought. So most of us get lost in the fact that we think of something, and then we think that we should receive it after that point. But it's the feeling that's associated with that, right? It's the feeling of greed. It's the feeling of fear. Those are the things that are causing us to react in certain ways, especially when it comes to markets. But when it comes to our lives, we also react based on different emotions. So it's important for us to live the emotions of feeling a certain way as if it had already happened, as if it were complete. And if you're doing these exercises on a daily basis while you're sitting on the sidelines, while you're sitting on your hands, or similar to locking your tokens up, right? You need to have the psychological ability to be able to sit on your hands. And you want the vibrational guidance to be able to exit your position, or to sell a portion of it, or to hold your position as long as you feel is right for you. So you want that vibrational guidance as far as your entry and exit. And that's really all we really want, is we want the vibrational guidance. We really don't want, because what are most of us doing? We're looking on YouTube, we're looking at Matty Allen, we're looking at Sami, we're looking at myself or others, and we're asking them, especially if we don't have the knowledge or feel like we're an expert in anything, especially when it comes to markets, we're looking for guidance as to when to exit. We're looking for that euphoria. We're looking for someone to say, oh, it could go further or it can't go further. We're looking for RH to say something that will guide us to do something else, right? But what we really want is we want our internal guidance system to guide us to what's best for us. Because if we have an overall goal, and let's say that goal is $1 million and you receive $250,000 in a Pulse ecosystem, let's say, but then you receive $750,000 in a lottery win, you've received your goal. So it doesn't mean because you've received $1 million that you should go towards $2. It could happen and you could go beyond that. But you have to remember the vibration that you've been putting out into the universe and what you've been asking for. Because whatever you ask for, you do receive, and you probably will receive it as long as you're not putting any sort of resistance in place, such as fear, worry, concern. Those are resistant factors, or maybe someone else may be in your ear causing you to be fearful. Your wife, excuse me, or someone else in your immediate family or friends that might be saying, hey, get out, what are you doing? You're crazy, you shouldn't hold. So these are other factors that can come into play. So you really want to be as close to yourself and your own internal guidance system as you can, as opposed to looking outward at others. Yes, you could look to others for guidance and some sort of suggestion, but in the end, you want to be the one to answer the question. And it was interesting because in this video,
it depends what your goals are. You could, well, that's EHEX, yeah. It's hard to stake short with that one. But 5 million, that's a lot. So maybe, I mean, with 5 million EHEX, it's up to you. You could stake it or bridge it over. I mean, depends where you want it to end up.
there was someone who was talking about their EHEX, and they were asking Matty Allen's opinion, and he did an excellent job of not answering the question, because it isn't his responsibility to give him guidance as to what he should do with it. Should he bring it across the bridge, or should he restake it? I mean, he pretty much, had no idea that Matty Allen was in psychology, but it makes a lot of sense why I was attracted to some of his videos. And why he speaks a certain way. So what I'm recognizing is he did it in a smart way. He didn't tell him what to do, or her, whoever it was, but he did give suggestions as to what you could do. And he gave multiple suggestions on both sides of the fence. And a lot of psychologists do this. And it's important because it's important for the person themselves to make that decision on their own. It's more important for them to come to an analysis for their own sake and to make a decision, because at the end of the day, they're responsible for themselves, right? And they can't hold anyone else accountable but themselves, which again comes back to my premise of being able to control your thoughts and focus intentionally, not by default. Most of us in the world focus by default, meaning whichever way the wind blows is the way we think. If something comes across us that makes us happy, we stay happy. If something comes across that makes us sad, we get sad. We're not able to pivot, which is very, very important in the real world, no matter what. And forget about crypto, forget about business, forget about your job. In the macro, in all aspects of your lives, the one thing we want to be able to do is pivot. It's what we need to do when we figure out that there's something that we don't like. We need to be able to pivot our emotions. If there's something we're upset about, we need to pivot. What most people confuse themselves with is the emotional scale. I don't have the list of emotions with me right now. That's something you can look up. If you look up or Google the emotional guidance scale, you'll probably come up with a list of 30 or 40 emotions, but it goes all the way from depression all the way to like a euphoria or a happiness, very content and knowing that everything's good. And there's a series of emotions between the one extreme and the other. So for most people, we think that we need to be happy, or we need to be grateful, or we need to be at this very high vibrational emotional scale. And when we're in depression, we're not realizing that from depression, we can move up the guidance scale from depression to anger, right? So when someone's in depression and then we see them from the outside because we're in happiness, and we see them go from depression to anger, we start to look at them like, why are you being angry? You're more aggressive, and that's not good. I'd rather you be depressed because at least you were calm. But that's not good. It's not good for us to see, but for them, it's actually an improvement to go from depression, which is an I don't care about anything anymore, to anger, which means you do care. You care enough to be angry. And then to move slowly up the emotional guidance scale. Again, this is a whole different subject. I'm not going to dive into it right now, but it is something for us to be aware of, because when you're aware of the fact that there are different levels of emotion and different levels for you to increase on a daily basis, when you think about a subject that you're dealing with, whether it's money, whether it's a relationship, whether it's euphoria or crypto or whatever the case might be, you can try to pay attention by asking yourself where you are on that emotional guidance scale to see if the emotion that you're currently feeling is a step above the emotion you were feeling, which means you're walking in the right direction. It doesn't need to be happy. And I think most people think that wherever they are on that emotional guidance scale, that they have to automatically leap straight into being happy or euphoric from that depression, and that's not realistic. You need to go through the guidance scale and you slowly start to move up. Now, that could take you a series of minutes, or it could take you a series of days, hours, or years. It really depends on you, right? And that's the psychological side of things, but it does tie into the attractive side of things, because if you're not able to recognize how you feel, then you're not able to create or manifest things on purpose. You're going to create by default, which is why some days our lives are great and some days they suck, right? We go with whatever is happening with the flow, and most of the time the flow is a reflection of your past, and a reflection of your past is causing your present. So as I said in one of my previous videos, which is not on the crypto cave side, it's on the LOE side. If you look at some of my videos on the LOE side, which is law of expectation, that's what I go by. It's the same as law of attraction, but it's expecting what it is that you want and your output and desire. And as that expectation is set in your mind, you start to go in that direction and you do receive what you ask for. So my point is, I would rather help you guys, and none of my videos are for anyone specific. My videos are for me, because I'm expressing what I'm doing, and it's a daily reminder to me of what's possible and what's not, and it's a daily reminder for me to practice what I'm preaching to myself. So if you like this, great. Please click like, please click share. Pass it on to others in the community, others outside of the community, right? Because maybe this information will help them, but they'll help them also wonder, well, what's going on with this community, and who is, MistrNomad? Who is, well, what is PulseChain? And it helps with other adoption as well, because this is not just for crypto, but this is for people and our lives. And I guess that's the thing, is that I'm really grateful for being a part of this community. I'm grateful for many of the other content creators within this community, because I'm recognizing more and more that I've been attracted to this community because we genuinely are looking to better other people, including RH, right? The outrage marketing was ingenious. It worked. It made me think, what a freaking asshole. I'm sorry for my language, but in the beginning I was like, wow, what the hell, right? But if you look past that, you start to realize, wow, this was a marketing ploy. And it works, because I noticed even some of my videos, if I post a video about law of attraction, or if I post a video about positive thinking, you don't get as many likes. But if you talk about, oh my God, this is the last chance to get into PulseChain, or this doom and gloom is about to happen, people click left and right. Well, what is this guy talking about? What's that? Right? So people gravitate towards negativity more than they do positivity. It's unfortunate that that's what the world is, but majority of people are not feeling great, and they resonate with others who aren't feeling great either. Hopefully that's not any of you guys, which it's unlikely because you're actually watching this video. But most people won't resonate or even see this video because they aren't in that vibrational state. So bottom line is, you really want to stay within your mind and practice the abundant state, being complete. How you expect to be with others, practice it now. You should be walking into a Starbucks feeling like you are $1 million, and you should be going in there and seeing how you treat others, because you still want to treat others how you expect to be treated, no matter who you are and how you are. So it's not easy. There are times where we may fall victim to this syndrome of sudden wealth, and it is what it is. We are human, but Maddie is right as far as being able to recognize it. Excellent video. Listen to it, save it, because should my preventative maintenance side of things preventing you from going through that, which can help with solidifying the actual wealth, because we want the wealth, right? We don't want sudden wealth syndrome because that means we're wealthy. We want to be wealthy without the sudden wealth syndrome. So yes, because you have sudden wealth syndrome, great, we are now wealthy, but that's not the goal. The goal is to become wealthy, to become healthy, and being able to help others in the process and not experience that syndrome at all. So preventative maintenance, I would call it, is more important than reactive maintenance, reacting and solving an existing problem after it happens as opposed to preventing it. So either way, should it slip through the cracks and you're not able to catch it in time, I'm glad that you are with us in the succession of PulseChain, as well as your own lives, your businesses, your families, and so on and so forth. But should you run into this type of syndrome and you start to get some of the side effects of it, should things go so parabolic that we start to almost forget certain things, because we can do that, this is an excellent video to watch and save to help you to recalibrate your mind and focus again.